You knew she'd hurt you, but you still couldn't walk away. There's something about her, a look, a tone, a silence, that slips past your mind and speaks straight to your gut. In this video, you'll meet 5 types of women who don't just attract you, they expose you. You'll see the invisible wounds behind your attraction and why your deepest longing often hides your greatest fear. Because the women we're drawn to aren't always what we want. Sometimes they're exactly what we've spent our whole life trying not to feel. And that's where the shadow lives. She doesn't need to say much. She walks into the room and the atmosphere shifts. There is something in the way she moves, confident, unapologetic, almost dangerous. You don't just notice her. You feel her in your throat, in your stomach, in your spine. She is the woman who ignites a hunger in you that you pretend you don't have. The hunger you've tried to tame with discipline, with morality, with a carefully curated image of being in control. But she sees right through it, not with cruelty, but with some ancient knowing. This is the first type of woman who awakens your shadow, the siren. She's not the girl next door. She doesn't try to be liked. She doesn't soften her edges to make you feel safer. And that's exactly why she disturbs you and why you want her. The siren doesn't awaken love. She awakens desire, and not the romantic kind you can package into a nice dinner date. This is something primal, something that feels like danger and liberation at once. She doesn't offer you safety. She offers you exposure to the parts of yourself you were taught to suppress. And she doesn't do it deliberately. She doesn't have to. She just is. The Jungian shadow often contains everything you were told is inappropriate to want. Everything that didn't fit your family's values, your religion's rules, your society's expectations, lust, aggression, rawness, power, chaos. And then she walks in, the woman who seems to embody it all, unashamed. You're not just attracted, you're pulled, not by her body, but by the part of your own soul that finally smells oxygen again. You start to feel alive, reckless, unreasonable, real. And that terrifies you, because you've worked so hard to not be this. You've built a life around control, and she doesn't break your rules. She makes you want to. Men often demonize the siren. They call her manipulative, dangerous, a distraction. But what they're really saying is, I wasn't ready for what she showed me about myself. Because the siren doesn't lie. She doesn't promise more than she is. She simply reflects what you've buried and dares you to look. And most men run from that, or chase it obsessively. Both are forms of fear. Here's the truth. It's not her that's dangerous. It's what she wakes up in you. A hunger that won't be satisfied with surface. A truth that won't stay buried. A power that no longer wants to be polite. And you have 2 choices. Project it onto her. Call her names, place her on a pedestal, chase her, resent her, or claim it as your own. Because what you see in her isn't about her. It's about you. It always was. She never fully arrives. She's there, then gone. Warm, then cold. Close, then suddenly unreachable. She doesn't scream. She doesn't fight. She just fades. You try to hold her, but your hands close around fog, and something inside you panics. Not because she's leaving, but because this isn't the first time you felt love vanish while you were still reaching for it. This is the ghost. The woman who doesn't reject you outright. She simply refuses to stay. The ghost doesn't chase drama. She doesn't yell. She doesn't even promise much. In fact, it's you who often imagines the connection builds the story, projects the meaning. She gives just enough to keep you hoping, but never enough to feel safe. And it's not manipulation, it's pattern. She's not here to betray you. She's here to reflect something in you, your fear of being left. Carl Jung taught that the shadow isn't just rage or lust, it's need. And few needs are as deep, as buried, as quietly desperate as the need not to be abandoned. The ghost activates this wound without saying a word. She activates the younger part of you, the one who waited by the door, the one who felt invisible, the one who was loved conditionally. You don't chase her because she's perfect. You chase her because her absence feels familiar. Familiar like the parent who was emotionally unavailable. Familiar like the friend who disappeared when things got real. Familiar like the version of love you always thought you deserved. Partial, delayed, uncertain. And here's the hardest part. You don't just want her to stay. You want to prove that you're finally enough to make someone stay. Which means you're not loving her. You're loving the version of yourself you hope she'll heal. But she can't. She won't. Because that healing isn't hers to give. Signs you're caught in the ghost dynamic. You replay conversations, looking for what went wrong. You feel obsessed, but don't really know her deeply. You confuse silence with mystery and inconsistency with depth. You give more when she pulls away, hoping to win her back. You're exhausted, but still checking your phone. You're not in love. You're in a cycle, a ritual of absence and anticipation. And each time she pulls away, your shadow flinches, and your ego scrambles to feel worthy again. But this isn't really about her. It's about the you that was once left too soon. The you that decided, if I can become lovable enough, they won't leave again. You'll know you're healing when you stop chasing ambiguity. You stop trying to earn what should be freely given. You learn to sit with loneliness without letting it define your value. You feel attraction, but ask, do I feel safe here? Because the ghost will always haunt those who have not yet made peace with their own abandonment. And the work isn't to make her stay. It's to notice why you need her to feel the part of you that still believes love equals loss, connection equals waiting, and desire equals suffering. To say to that part, you deserve someone who chose you, and I'm sorry you didn't get that, but I'm here now. The ghost awakens your fear not because she's cruel, but because your wound was ready to surface. So let it surface, let it speak, let it grieve, and then let it go. Because you're not the boy waiting at the window anymore. You're the man who knows he no longer has to wait. She triggers you, not by yelling, not by blaming, but simply by being everything you were taught to reject. She's bold, sensual, unapologetically alive. She doesn't shrink when you disagree. She doesn't apologize for her desires. She doesn't mold herself to make you comfortable, and you find yourself both drawn to her and irritated by her. One moment, you admire her. The next, you judge her, not because of who she is, but because of who she's awakening in you. This is the mirror. She isn't here to complete you. She's here to confront you. She reflects back the very qualities you've repressed in yourself. Your hunger, your wildness, your anger, your emotional honesty, your softness, your selfishness, the parts of you you've tried to outgrow, outrun, or outperform, and suddenly you're face to face with yourself. You might feel like she's too much, too loud, too intense, too demanding, But too much is often just a mirror for what you never allowed yourself to be. You were taught to be nice, to be reasonable, composed, contained. So when someone walks into your life fully expressed, it doesn't just challenge you, it activates you. Carl Jung said, "Everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves." That's the mirror's role. She doesn't hurt you with cruelty. She hurts you with clarity. She shows you who you really are underneath the rules, underneath the persona, underneath the mask of who you think you should be. And you might try to fix her, to tone her down, to help her grow. But the truth is, you don't want to fix her. You want to fix the discomfort she creates in you, because she represents the version of you that was once shamed, silenced, or punished, and your ego still hasn't made peace with him. Signs you've met the mirror. You feel both desire and defensiveness around her. You intellectualize your judgments to avoid your reactions. You want her attention, but feel threatened when you have it. You try to teach her instead of listening. You feel emotionally exposed even when she's not trying to get close. She doesn't play games, but being around her feels like a test you weren't prepared for, a test that keeps showing you the parts you haven't reconciled. Here's the hidden truth. The mirror is not dangerous. She's not your enemy. But if you're not ready to face yourself, you'll experience her as a threat, because the ego's job is to maintain your current identity, and she challenges that identity just by existing. But if you lean in instead of pulling back, you'll find something extraordinary. She doesn't need you to change. She's inviting you to remember. Remember the version of yourself that once danced without self-consciousness, spoke without rehearsing, felt without restraint. She's not asking you to become someone new. She's reminding you of who you were before shame taught you to shrink. You'll know you're healing when you stop labeling women too much for expressing what you suppress. You recognize your projections before turning them into criticism. You stop trying to control her energy and start owning your reaction to it. You feel triggered and stay open anyway. She's not here to comfort you. She's here to wake you up. And yes, sometimes awakening feels like resistance, like discomfort, like chaos. But beneath all of it is the version of you that wants to come back to life, because your shadow isn't just pain or fear. It's your vitality, your instinct, your truth. And the mirror reflects that until you're ready to stop flinching and start remembering. She's gentle. She's kind. She listens more than she speaks. She nurtures with a warmth that feels ancient, familiar. Being around her is comforting, safe, almost sacred. You find yourself opening up without meaning to. You tell her things you've never told anyone, and afterward you wonder, why her? You don't just want her love. You want her presence, her gaze, her stillness, and if you're honest, you want her to fix something you don't have the words for. This is the mother. She's not necessarily older. She doesn't baby you. She doesn't even try to help. But something in the way she exists makes you soften and ache, because she awakens a need you've spent your whole life hiding, the need to be held, seen, accepted, without doing anything to earn it. And that's where the shadow stirs. Because for many men, love was earned through behavior. Approval was conditional. Presence was inconsistent. You didn't get nurtured, you got managed. You got told to man up. You got strength instead of softness. So when she shows up with her unhurried affection and quiet depth, it confuses you, it disarms you, it feels like home and danger at the same time. Carl Jung spoke often of the mother archetype, both as nourishment and entrapment. The mother is sacred, but she's also loaded with history, and when she appears in a real person, she doesn't just represent herself. She represents everything your inner child never received. And that's why you don't just love her. You cling to her. You idealize her. You fear losing her before she even leaves. Because what you feel isn't just desire. It's longing. Signs you're caught in the mother dynamic. You idealize her beyond who she actually is. You seek her approval more than her companionship. You feel anxious when she's distant, even slightly. You become dependent on her emotional tone to feel stable. You interpret her nurturing as a sign she'll never leave. But here's the danger. What you see as love may actually be projection. You're not falling for her. You're falling for the possibility that she'll repair something that never healed, and no woman, no matter how loving, can carry that weight. Because when you turn a partner into a mother, you don't just risk the relationship, you risk losing yourself in the illusion that healing comes from the outside. She may hold space for you, she may care, she may want connection, but the pain she activates isn't about now, it's about then. About the boy who didn't get held long enough, or seen clearly enough, or believed in deeply enough. And you don't heal that by chasing it in someone else's arms. You heal it by holding space for him yourself. You'll know you're healing when you stop confusing softness with salvation. You feel safe around nurturing energy without needing to consume it. You connect to your inner child without outsourcing the parenting. You let her be a woman, not a healer, not a mother, not your missing history. The mother doesn't hurt you directly, but her presence can bring up pain you didn't even know was still alive. And that's a gift if you choose to receive it consciously. Because the wound isn't that she won't stay. The wound is that you once needed someone to stay, and they couldn't. She can't undo that. But you can begin by no longer pretending you don't need love, by no longer proving strength through detachment, by no longer abandoning yourself while begging someone else to stay. The mother awakens the ache, not so you can depend on her, but so you can return to the part of you that's still waiting to be chosen, and finally say, "You're not too much. You never were. You are mine now, and I won't leave." She doesn't need you. She wants you, but on her own terms. She walks into a room like she owns it, not because she's loud, but because she knows exactly who she is. She commands attention, not with seduction, but with sovereignty. And when she looks at you, really looks, you feel both seen and challenged. This is the flame, the woman who ignites you, not with comfort, but with confrontation. She doesn't flatter you. She doesn't shrink to make you feel bigger. She doesn't soften the truth to protect your ego. And something in you admires her, while something else quietly resents her, because she activates a fear you rarely name, the fear of being powerless, not in the world, but in love. She's not here to hurt you, but she's not here to submit either. She is her own center. She doesn't orbit you. She doesn't collapse into your expectations, and that can feel threatening, especially if you were taught that love means control, that masculinity means dominance, that being the man means being above her, not beside her. Carl Jung spoke of the anima as a man's inner feminine, a force of soul, feeling, and mystery. But when the feminine is disowned in a man, he often seeks to dominate it in women. And when she shows up, fully embodied, fully alive, he either tries to possess her or push her away, because her power reflects the part of him that still feels small. You might call her too intense. You might accuse her of being difficult. But what you really feel is unsteady. She moves in ways you can't predict. She speaks truth without asking permission. By now, you've seen them: the siren, the ghost, the mirror, the mother, the flame. And maybe you've felt them too, not just as women you've met, but as emotions that once lived in your chest, too sharp to name, too old to trace. You didn't fall for them by accident. You were drawn in by something deeper, a wound asking to be felt, a shadow asking to be seen. Because these women were never here to complete you. They were here to reflect you, to show you the parts you pushed away, your hunger, your fear, your grief, your softness, your resistance to surrender. And in that reflection, if you're willing to look, is your most important work. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. But before you can become, you must first confront." And that confrontation rarely comes through solitude. It comes through intimacy, through longing, through the ache of meeting someone who touches the very thing you tried to bury. These women awaken your shadow, not to break you, but to bring you back to wholeness. The real task isn't to avoid them, it's to understand your response to them. Not, why does she behave like this? But, why do I feel what I feel around her? Because until you meet the rejected parts of yourself, you will keep calling them love. You will keep chasing the trigger instead of healing the wound. So next time you feel that strange magnetic pull, pause. Ask, is this desire or is this a doorway? And if it's a doorway, walk through it. Not to find her, but to find you. Because all along, what you've been trying to love in someone else was the part of you waiting to be remembered.